everybody. Hello. How's it going? Good evening. This is Nathaniel with my good friend, Dr. Worcester. And hey, and I've also got my daughter here, special guest, Lily. Yeah, Lily Provincial. Say hi
What's
to
up,
everyone
Lily?
out there.
Hi.
And I've got Lily here because she's in middle school and we've got like this all things teacher expert, former middle school math, author, influencer, Rae Hughart. What's going on? Naperville, Illinois. Is that where you reside?
I am. I moved here randomly, Naperville, Illinois, and I thought I'd be here for like 9 months. I signed a really short lease and I have yet to leave. I've been here for 3.5 years. So I guess Naperville for now, but I'm honored that you brought your daughter on the show. She's a celebrity here.
She is she is a celebrity, and I know very little about middle school. I was a third grade teacher, an elementary school principal. When I was an associate superintendent, I only did middle schools. I did a little bit with a K-8 school, Dr. Worcester, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit, which you might know a little bit about. Middle school seems to me like this, I don't know, like it's just like an interesting bridge between, elementary and high school, and like those middle school teachers are like ready for war like every single day.
Here's the deal. The girls in middle school are gorgeous. They're figuring themselves out. They're creating strong friendships. Sometimes girls are mean, and the boys are smelly. And that's just middle school.
So if I were to say skibbity, you would know what skibbity means, correct?
Oh yeah, we're back in middle school days right away.
Lily, I actually think Lily has the first question to ask. So I promised her that she could ask the first question, and then we're going to roll into some other kinds of topics, because we've got a lot to talk about this episode. What you got, Lily?
So when you were in middle school, what was your experiences like? And if you had any embarrassing moments in middle school?
Oh my gosh, I had a million embarrassing moments. Middle school was torture. I don't know about any of you, but I think back to middle school, and that was my least favorite years of learning, my least favorite years of learning who I am, friends, everything. I will say favorite memory is I think most of my favorite teachers were middle school teachers. There was like the social studies teacher that carried around a yardstick and would slam it on the desks, and everyone thought that was funny. Or Miss Hinchy, I will always remember her. She was a teacher that got engaged the year that I was in her class, and I always felt like that was so special. As a student, you kind of feel like you're a part of that stuff because they share some stuff with you. But embarrassing, I can tell you that my mother would go to my middle school, during like parent-teacher conferences or whatever, and she would open up my locker. And I was one of those people. Granted, guys, hold on. I was SLD in reading, writing, and math. I hated middle school. I had all these issues. But the only one that my mother would focus on is that I could not keep my locker clean. Like you would unlock it and just papers would come flying. And the woman's face, oh my God, that woman's face when she would find something that she was like, we did this homework together and it's a missing assignment. This was 4 weeks ago. That was my life in middle school. My mother yelling at me.
Oh man, what about you, Dr. Worcester? You were in New Hampshire, or were you in California during middle school?
I was in New Hampshire for middle school, the good old Elm Street Junior High.
Yep.
And yeah, Ray, you're right. It is a challenging time for your just development and trying to figure out who you are. I'll think about the embarrassing story.
All right. Well, I got one. Lily, I don't know if you know this story.
It's middle school. It goes with it, but
I got one.
What you got?
I had this crush on this girl. Her name was Cindy. And did I ever tell you this story? I don't think I ever told you the story. And I worked up the courage. I think I watched like the Karate Kid like 5 times just to get like some really strong courage, right? And I go up to her to ask her to like, I don't know, some homecoming dance. And I was sick and I sneezed right before I go up to her. And I had a nugget, a booger nugget on my shirt. It was the size of a silver dollar. And I go up to her and I ask her, it's like, hey, hi, Cindy. Hi, do you want to go out to this dance? And she looked at me and she said, not with you, booger boy. And then she walked off. And that probably was the most embarrassing moment in middle school. Did I ever tell you that story?
Not the booger boy.
I was a booger boy.
Did they all call you that? Did that get out? Did that spread?
She was cool. She called me that, and her friend that was there, because girls walk in packs, I guess, in middle school, right? but it died down. I thought it
Didn't
was
get
going to
out.
be over, and I think something else, took over precedence over whatever news was going on in that middle school. But Booger Boy, yeah, there you
Don't worry though. We can bring it back
go.
today.
Yeah,
Today's
that
the
might be
day.
my new
Community
Booger
connection with
Boy
Booger Boy.
community connection. Yeah, yeah. That's a
I
great
like it.
question, Lily. That's a great question. So Rae, here's just interesting. Like you do a lot. Like you were in the classroom, and then you got this opportunity to support not only the kids in your classroom, but kids like all over the world a little bit. So we're a sucker for an origin story. So if you could just talk a little bit about from the classroom to, the nation, that would be fantastic to hear about.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, I loved teaching. I mean, I went into teaching like all in. I became a mean old math teacher because I hated math. Math is the
Yeah,
worst subject ever. So who would
sure.
want to teach it? Me,
Right.
obviously. And I loved it. I was learning so much and I was really hungry. It was kind of a place that I found that I really liked finding success in teaching. And there's so many problems to fix. I was just like eating all of it up. I was like, okay, what's next? What can I do? What can I learn? And so it was a perfect space for me at that
Mm.
time. Then I'm so fortunate that I kind of stumbled upon getting into teaching. But when I was in teaching, I then had this dream and aspiration to possibly consider doing more. So after getting my master's degree, I taught at my alma mater. I was on faculty at Illinois State University for a period of time, and I thought I would love it, and I
Mm.
hated it. I hated it. I hated it because college kids are just like middle school students, except middle school students are way cooler. So one of these classes that I was on, like got me on social media. I'd never been on Twitter or social media prior, wasn't
Mm.
really my thing. And I connected with an author that I had read his book, and that was Dave Burgess, who
Yeah.
ran the TLAP chat. And when I hosted it one time, a few weeks later, I ended up connecting with two gentlemen, Jeff Gargis and Chad Urshowski, and we grew what, is now known as the Teach Better team. I was part of the Teach Better team for better part of a decade. I loved
Wow.
it. I was like the face of the company and, evolved it to this huge community. And yeah, in 2024, I finally took the leap and kind of stepped away and closed that chapter of my life. But the origin story is really accidental teacher turned love for education, turned meeting people and just constantly taking opportunities that kind of came before me.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, I want to dive in just a bit to the middle school because it is like Vincio said, like I know too, it's a unique time. So what made you want to do middle school and specifically middle school math?
Ooh, I was teaching dance class all through high school. I was a part of a dance studio. Ballet was big. So I was a big dancer, and then I had the opportunity to teach. So it was an amazing time. And
I can do a first position and a second position like
there you go.
nobody's business.
I
Right?
love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it was great. If any of you have ever taken a dance class, when you get the opportunity to teach one, you're really scared, but it's super fun when you're hanging out with middle school students learning ballet.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
that brought me into teaching. I decided to continue with it. I loved teaching dance. Why not teach something else?
I'm just curious. First of all, your school was so blessed to have you as such a passionate educator, right? I mean, awesome. Your kids were so blessed to have you. What did collaboration look like for you as a sixth grade math middle school teacher, where you're exemplary, you're doing amazing things, and then you've got a team that you're working with? And what were you able to do or maybe not? I don't know, but to support them and have that team approach to teaching math in middle school, which is very challenging. I'm just very curious about that kind of collaborative ethos that you had in your middle school.
I loved collaboration. It's actually why I ended up at the school I ended up at, which I did the majority of my teaching career at. I was a student teacher my senior year in college at a school that I just absolutely fell in love with. And I went to a different school for my first year teaching, but then a position opened up and they reached out to me to come back to the school. And I was so overly excited to enter back into that building because every teacher there was exceptional.
Mm.
Every single teacher. So I had this crazy opportunity to learn from people who were just, right around the corner or just one level down or up. And I already had an in kind of knowing who they were and how outstanding they were. So to be honest, my entire time at that school, which I think we went through like 6 principals when I was there, was constantly trying to soak up as much learning as I possibly could from these educators. They were all creative in different ways and passionate in different ways. And that it was amazing to collaborate with people that were already ahead of the game.
So I think, Lily, going back to that, I think you got a second question. And I think this question has to do more with strategies. I am enthralled with strategies. And I know this is kind of like a bread and butter for you, Rae. So Lily, let's see what the question is.
What are some of your favorite teaching techniques if the lesson is boring?
That's a great question. We always need ideas if our lessons are boring, how to make them more fun and engaging. I would say, full transparency, I do not consider myself a very bright person. I need routines for things to work. And I'm good on the spot, but I need a solid foundation to be working from. So actually, throughout my entire teaching career, at least within the first few years, and then for the rest of time, I operated my lessons the exact same way. My students participated in themed internships that were all sponsored by local businesses using Mastery Learning. So I had this Mastery Learning foundation where students were working at their own pace and given autonomy to advocate for what they wanted throughout their learning, which was such a ball because the actual classroom during a Mastery Learning classroom is like beautifully chaotic and yet incredibly organized. And yet, on the flip side, to make it engaging, like you asked, Lily, we did all themed internships sponsored by local businesses. So there was free stuff in our classroom all the time. Students were only learning information that was relevant to the internship they were participating in. I mean, if you can envision 180 sixth graders going through 25 different internships, all the way from being in a kitchen to owning a small business to working in marketing. We even had a unit where they were unemployed and they had to work to apply for jobs. It really kept it interesting. There was always something goofy going on, everything from having to buzz into your NASA desk to something wacky in the classroom. So we had a good time.
All right, Rae, I gotta ask some hard principal questions now. I gotta put my lame principal hat on. Are you ready?
Do it.
All right. So you're doing all of that in a public school, correct?
Oh yeah.
All right. And then at the end of that year, you've got an assessment that those kids have to take that probably doesn't have anything to do with them being unemployed or any kind of community businesses are over there, right? And this is a math.
I taught math all the years I was teaching, and then I had a sprinkling because middle school teachers, we got different things. So I did science and writing as well.
So I'm that lame principal that's going to knock on the door. Hello, Rae. What's going on? Are these the standards? Can you make a connection over here? How do you justify this? And I think that's actually interesting to think about, because I think so many of our teachers are disengaged with not so much what they're teaching, but how they're teaching it. So I'm interested with that conversation from a leadership perspective and a results perspective.
Absolutely. I will tell you, my favorite thing is creativity. So getting themed internships and making it fun for students wasn't the problem. It was making sure I had this foundation. And it was in my first few years teaching, moving to this school that I loved working at, where I learned how to have that because I was working with expert teachers, one of which Katie Kinderman, which I should reconnect with her. I should call her right now because I'm talking about her. But she was so meticulous. She understood the standards. She understood how to break them down. She understood common assessments and the use of our classes taking the same types of assessment to be able to compare data. She looked at data in a way that actually was restorative for the student growth rather than terrible for teacher outcome. And I was able to take that information along with what I learned about Mastery Learning. Every single moment, every activity, every mini lesson was standard aligned. There was not one thing that we did that was not standard aligned, whether it be a fun activity or not. And we all 3 grade level math teachers gave common assessments every year. I was there for every single unit I was there for.
That's fantastic. Hey, the proof is in the results, man. The proof's in
My
the results, right?
My results were pretty darn good. Just saying.
There you go. There you go, Princia. Ray, I appreciate the passion that you're showing right now. And if you're passionate as a teacher, I think that will sell the students more than anything else. And I appreciate the passion and creativity that you brought to your classroom.
Who would not love being in a cool internship, right? These were like 4 to 6 week internships. We're always goofing around. There was always some free food or something goofy someone was bringing to our room. We had a ball. I love teaching middle school. It's the best age. And now it's even cooler seeing teachers take this idea and do it like 1,200 times better than I could. And I just think that's like the most inspiring thing ever, to see teachers be absolutely fabulous and in any way, shape, or form be connected to them.
And in middle schools, what I see is a lot of time spent on discipline. I do. I see probably as much time spent on compliance and discipline than I do on engagement and authentic learning experiences. I see a lot of, still clawing our way out of kind of like the pandemic results. And I see a lot of, once again, compliance. I see a lot of curriculum-based learning. And I'm not saying the curriculum is good or bad. I'm just saying but if the teacher doesn't have a hand in creating what they're teaching, sometimes if there's no ownership, once again, there's no engagement. So I know that you do a lot of work with teachers in schools and districts across the nation. Are you seeing that as well? What scares you and what do you feel hopeful about?
Gosh, it's really unfortunate you couldn't have given me a loaded question. I was really hoping for No, I mean, I have to tell you, there are enough problems in education that if you take one and I take the other, I'll meet you in the middle.
Yeah,
like
sure.
There's so many things that we need to be doing better in this space. The new brand and movement that I just launched, called Teachers Deserve It, is focused on giving educators ways to still be better at their job without risking their wellness, their ability to make it home for their kids to get tucked into bed, to be able to stay home long enough to make breakfast with the kids. We have to be doing better for this field. And so with the teachers that I get to work with now, it's less about identifying the huge issue and throwing the large solution at it to really change things overnight. I find that while educators are so well-meaner, they want to change, but they don't have the capacity to take on something that is enormous, right? If I go to an educator right now and say, hey, if you take on mastery learning using a framework that I give you, it will revolutionize your teaching, but you won't know what you're doing for the first year. You'll get a ton of parent backlash, and your principal won't know if they're supposed to support you or not. So you probably won't feel confident within the first 18 months. Every educator is going to be like, I wish, but how about not? And I also am not going to be home to see anything that's going on in my life that year. So the focus these days, which I think is so much more efficient and effective based off of who we're helping right now, is with Teachers Deserve It. We are doing mini 30-day challenges, mini little courses, little tidbits, bite-sized pieces to say, hey, you want to be better at just this small, teeny tiny concept? Here's 1, 2, 3 things you can do, and then report back. How'd it go? Everything from, did you know that you could increase your student conferencing 33% by simply doing it standing? Like, every teacher would move out of the kidney table and would stand up if it would save them 33% of the time and make them more effective. But unless they're told to do that, it gets lost. So we're constantly looking at this efficiency and effectiveness to solve that problem.
So, Ray, do you also work with school leaders and administrators on these kinds of things? Because it's one thing for you to talk to a teacher and say, here are some great things to do. But if I've got a boss like Provincia over here, and he's calling me at 7 o'clock at night, and he wants me to write to an email on the weekend, and he's asked for all these reports, it's tough for me to then have that control because I've got a supervisor who's not allowing that to happen. So do you talk about that balance with admin teams as well?
100%. Every single course has an admin guide with frequently asked questions and what you should see in my classroom versus what you may have seen in the past. There are a ton of different supports we can do with administrators, always to support teachers. Our focus in Teachers Deserve It is the teacher. So if you need coaching on parent support to communicate an idea or administrative support to support your leadership, that's a given. There's no question. We want educators to be more efficient and effective. We have the data to make it happen. Now we just need to allow everyone to work in their best selves and be able to have the support to do it.
Appreciate that. We certainly need teachers in our country, so we are certainly hurting. And so 100% we both do. Teachers do deserve it. So I appreciate you putting teachers first and focusing that work on them.
I appreciate it. And I also have to say, similar to the work I know you guys do, I also am not in administration right now. And I know that while I can support administrators from an educator perspective, from a global perspective, there's many, many things that I choose to step away from. And I feel like in educational work, we're always scared of that. Like we have to be experts in everything. Guys, I'm an expert in almost nothing, but I got a guy, right? Like when I need someone, I know who I'm calling and I'm going to get them support. So if I have an administrator who needs a teacher to respond to an email at 11 o'clock at night, I might start by being an advocate. I'll be a confidant. I'll be a follow-up and accountability coach. But I'm also introducing that leader to someone in education who I know I'm connected with, that I care about, who's going to do some really good work. And it's not going to be me, because you take one problem, I'll take the other, and I'll meet you in the middle.
Well, I think that's valuable. I think there is I'll tell you, Rae, there is a question that I have. Actually, I want Lily to ask this question. It's because I think it goes back to, the perception right now. I feel public education is under attack in this country. I feel like American education is exceedingly underrated. And I think it's also undervalued. And I think there's a little bit of a publicity kind of thing that we got to get back to. I think that we need to own our excellence in a way. And we are, whether we realize it or not. And we've had some really great conversations with some podcasts about the quote unquote great resignation and so many teachers leaving this profession. So Lily, I think you've got a question that speaks to that.
Every kid deserves the best teacher. What would you say to a teacher right now that may feel like they want to quit?
Isn't that the worst feeling?
Mm.
I know that that's not all I would say, but at least acknowledging why that feeling exists and having empathy for it, I think is the first step. So many educators want to leave because they feel as though they're burnt out, they need more support, they need more funding, all these things. And yet the majority of people say, yeah, but it's your job. Yeah, but your summer's off. Yeah, but you work with students. Yeah, but you have tenure. There needs to be a first step of, yeah, this profession has gone through the ringer and you are still here through it. So the next step is, what are we going to do about it? And it's not going to be having you go work in insurance, because it's not fulfilling. Guys, life outside of the classroom actually kind of sucks. Like, I hate to say it. Like, I'm sorry. People make it look amazing. Guys, it's not. There are things that you don't get anywhere else unless you are in a middle school with students in the middle of October. You just don't get it. So if you like it enough that you're still there today, then you don't need to leave. We just need to have some conversations around, where could you be really more efficient? Where could you get more support? Where could you find a better resource? And then how do we make it consistent? The worst part of teaching is becoming stagnant. And, I think that some of this is educators needing a one-on-one conversation with somebody who cares and has access to oodles of resources, and then just starts connecting the dots.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't want to lose any. I don't want to hear. I hate it when we lose a teacher, right? I hate it when it's kind of like, what'd you say, go into real estate or insurance or whatever. Everyone's going insurance and look, and I get it. And I think that every teacher who goes into the profession wants to do the absolute best that they can. And I've always thought that the most passionate educators are also the most passionate learners. But it's one thing to go to a conference in August and get inundated with some spiel, and then lives and dies in the conference room, and then you don't do anything with it in the classroom. It's a disaster when that happens, and it's such a waste of money.
We have to talk about this. This could be its own podcast episode. We have a course in our academy about building sustainable networks, because if you are just going to a conference every year, like AMLE, amazing conference, always the first weekend in November. You guys should look it up if you're not going and you're listening and you're a middle school guru, right? Amazing conference. If you are waiting till November 1st weekend to go to AMLE every single year, and you're going for 3-4 days, traveling, having a grandioso time, you're coming back, and with the 150 ideas you got, you're implementing 2 at best,
At
and
best.
then you have 12 more months to wait. So we have to figure out ways to get sustainable networks that give us bite-sized ideas that are research supported, that are best for students, that then we can implement over the course of the year. Because that speaker that you heard at AMLE that you were so inspired by does that every single day on TikTok. So rather than the conference, although I love a good conference, but rather than the conference being a focus, let's connect you with that speaker. Let's like a few posts. Let's intentionally add them to our learning network. And let's get every TikTok and Instagram reel and Facebook thing they do.
Yeah. I love that.
Inspiration is easier than change.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Go someplace, hear
Inspiration is
something that's
easier than change.
phenomenal, and then
Yeah.
having to change how you do things, it's where it becomes challenging.
Well, and that's the hard part, which is why we made this course in our Teach Better Learning Hub, because once you go get that idea and you implement it, if you run into any issues, it's like, okay, now what? Maybe I'm just
Right.
not going to do it anymore. It didn't work for me, right? My students are different. Whereas if you're connecting with somebody on social media and you have some sort of relationship where you can reach out and ask questions, or if you're taking an asynchronous course in the Teachers Deserve It Learning Hub and you have access to the author, now we're building sustainable change because you're able to interact and get feedback like good students do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's hugely important. Inspiration is easier than change, and nobody likes change. Everyone likes the idea of change. Nobody,
Correct.
you know what I mean? But
You got hard work.
I don't know. It's
Because you have
interesting.
barriers, you have setbacks, and if you don't have somebody coaching you through it, it is easy to ditch those things.
Yeah.
I have to say though, while I agree 100% with what you're saying, there is always a moment in every single person's life where a moment of change changed their life.
Mm,
And for all you know, it's this. And if you
Sure.
just were able to change and get some feedback, everything could be different.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a big, I love habits. I love the work from James Clear. I love the works from Charles Duhigg. I do think that is one of the things that needs to happen. I think education, Eric and I, we've been in public school education for, I don't know, are we at 30 years? No,
25.
26
Yeah.
years. And
Quarter century.
there's a quarter of a century,
Crazy,
but there's
right?
always ideas, right? There's always ideas, and there's always new research, and there's always new practices. But what there isn't is sustainability. And one of the things that always gets me is that so many well-meaning school leaders are chasing the snake oil. They're chasing the silver bullet, and then there becomes pedagogical PTSD, where our educators and our teachers have been trying to do all these things, and there's no sustainability, there's no habits, because there's more money, or there's less money, or there's new leadership, so Rae, how can we take some of these amazing practices that your team is advocating for and make them systemic, sustainable, and enduring? And it's not just something that's just an overnight kind of do this thing. How can we have your practices endure? What kind of principal that's listening to this, or a team that's listening to this, or a district person listening to this, take away from making sure that this is sustainable?
I think you hit the nail on the head by talking about creating a routine or a habit. Every single element of the work I'm doing now, whether it be teachers deserve their time back or teachers deserve respect or teachers deserve insert anything here, comes down to the fact that if you think you deserve something, you're the first one to go get it, and you should be the first one to make the first move. You don't get respect by not giving respect, and you also don't get respect by not showing others what you're doing that is perceived as respectful. So being able to create these sustainable practices come down to routines, having a consistent understanding of where you're heading, having an accountability coach to help you get there, and having those tiered steps to help you build up. I think one of the failures of the last 10 years of my life is working on a skill set that does change classrooms, but it changes classrooms by doing a massive overhaul in the teachers' classrooms. And I loved the practice. I did it myself, but I myself did the overhaul. I threw out everything that I had done previously and I started new. And that takes a certain kind of crazy. I think there is an element here that if we actually want to see change, not just in the next 10 years, if we want to see change in a month, if we want to see change by the end of the school year, it takes a daily act of little tiny changes. And I think the first step isn't, well, how should I add that to my calendar or who's my accountability coach? But what's the little tip? Because most teachers, when I tell them the stat on, student conferencing, that's not something that's hard to do. Standing up during a conference is not hard. It simply is having the knowledge and every so often getting a reminder. That's it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. So you're going through, so you're like starting a new company. I mean, this is huge. This is big. So talk to us about this transition and like, you're like, I guess you're like the CEO now from, so like, this is big stuff. Like, are you scared? Are you nervous?
Yeah, obviously. No, yeah, this is a big for me. Obviously, anytime you close a chapter, you're very weary. And I knew that this was the right choice for me because I had a very specific mission that I was looking to do in this field. And I wasn't accomplishing it anymore. And so, I'm now the CEO and co-founder of the Teachers Deserve It movement. I have an unbelievable team I'm working with. Thank goodness they are smarter than me because I, again, do not know everything. I always have a guy. And I think it really comes down to wanting to do what I feel is truly my mission on this planet. And it all becomes something that kind of I stumbled upon and then clicked the pieces together, right? I was sitting at a conference in Illinois. At the time, it was called the Illinois Education I don't know what conference it was. It was up in Schaumburg. They still have it. It's at the end of February. And it's called the IdeaCon now. And I was sitting there 2 hours late to a dinner with Adam Welcome, who's an incredible educator and author and keynote. Guys, go Google him, look him up. He's amazing. They waited for me to order, which I was then mortified because I was hours late, but I hit traffic because it was snowing. And I sit down, they pour me a glass of red wine, and everyone orders a steak. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't even belong at this dinner, much less that they waited for me. So now they hate me.
Yeah.
Adam Welcome leans over and goes, hey, I want to write like a second book to Kids Deserve It. It was a best-selling book. I wrote it with Todd Neslony. Shout out to Todd. And I want to write another one, and you should write it with me. Like, ha, ha, ha. How many teachers are you asking, right? Like I'm the 70th teacher that's going to co-author this book. Like, that those books exist. And he was like, no, just you. And I was like, I have no business writing a second book. I had no business writing my first book. And with Adam Welcome, I mean, he was like a celebrity. I couldn't even believe that I was sitting next to him at the table.
Sure.
And the book got published in 2020, and we were thrilled to see, schools and take it up as their book study for the year and principals buying it for their teachers to provide empowerment. Little did I know 5 years later, we'd be starting an entire movement focused on essentially what the book was about. Teachers deserve it. Every single chapter was teachers deserve something, right? Teachers
Mhm.
deserve respect. But then the whole structure of every chapter was, yes, you do, but. It was,
Mm.
yes, you do, but what are you doing about it? You deserve respect, but you don't hang your bachelor's degree in your classroom. You deserve respect, but you haven't told your parents that you did 180 professional development hours this year. So,
Mm.
so it's not that people don't respect teachers, it's that they don't know what they don't know. So
Yeah.
how can teachers be a part of the solution? And I'm so honored that this kind of short little beach book, right? Like short little book is
Yeah.
now something that we can actually see systemic change from.
I love it.
That's fascinating.
Rae, I have a two-parter. One part for you and then one for everybody else, including Lily.
Oh,
Rae, first part, where can people find you? That's the easy one. Where can people find you?
Yes, guys, you can find me all over. I'm just at Rae Hughart on every social media humanly possible. And I hope you visit teachersdeserveit.com for blogs. And we have a podcast that comes out every week. And I don't know, we got courses and stuff. Just go over there and steal some free stuff.
Horse food stuff. You heard it
You've
here.
got an outstanding Instagram presence. I got to tell you, like I'm scrolling, when I should be like reading books or whatever, and I'm like, there's Rae. There's Rae talking about standing up. There's Rae looking fabulous. There's
That's why
Rae.
you
There,
respond to me. You're on Instagram. I knew you did
That's
something.
it.
I was
That's it,
like,
guys.
look at there. She's going. What's going on?
Guys, I am posting behind the scenes work that we're working on and my lunch. So
Part two, Rae and everybody. Favorite middle school teacher and why?
Ooh. Lily,
And
you got to go. Lily, you got to go
Lily,
first.
Lily, you can take any teacher from K through 6. So you have the range.
I mean, my mom was one of my teachers, so I would say her. But
Good
in
answer.
middle school, there's this teacher. His name is Mr. Paloma. He like engages with us, and he's like really nice.
Great.
shout out
You
Mr.
mean-
Paloma.
Yeah, you mean it's not the teacher that just gives you like test after test after test after test after test after test? That's not one of your favorite teachers?
No.
No, look at that, Rae. What are you gonna? Maybe Mr. Paloma's read Teachers Deserve It. Maybe.
I'd be
Here's the-
honored. I'd
Rae?
be honored. Honestly, I'll send him a free book, so it's fine. Anything. It's no
We're
big
gonna
deal.
do that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that.
Rae, who do you got?
Ugh, do I have to name if like when I was in middle school or a teacher that
You can do both.
You
want
do
to
whatever
both,
you
do
want.
both.
Okay, I always shout out Jill Burrows because she was my cooperating teacher when I was a student teacher and then became a colleague. We worked together for almost 10 years. I learned the most from her, and one of my favorite things that she taught me during student teaching was that every day can be a redo day. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. You should just, if you mess up, figure it out for tomorrow and fix it. So I love that. And then I will have to say I really liked Miss Hinchy that got engaged for some reason. She was just always so warm. She was an English teacher and I could barely read and she like still liked me. And I loved people that saw me beyond my academics, struggles. And she really was so sweet. So sweet.
That's awesome.
Nathaniel?
In middle school, this is always a tricky question because I feel like if you're calling out someone for being great, there's probably someone you're forgetting. So, I mean, it's a hard one, but I tell you, the middle school teacher that always comes to mind is a teacher by the name of Miss Hart, K. Hart. Yeah. Not Hughart, but Hart.
Close.
And here's why she was excellent, because it was all experience driven. She was a language arts teacher. And so if we read The Hound of the Baskervilles, we would set up court and do, plaintiffs, defendants on all of the Sherlock Holmes stuff. If we did, two roads diverged in a yellow wood and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. If we read a Robert Frost, she made it experience for us. And that's what, I don't remember the tests. I don't remember the homework. I just remember the experiences. And I don't even know if she really liked me very much, because I was a weird kid, booger boy, you know what I mean? But I liked going to her classes because I knew I'd get an experience. So much of great learning is great play. And we just met a wonderful Australian teacher, Angela Dickey, who talked so much about Montessori. And all of that is so experiential and play. And I think we steal that away from our kids for some reason. And anyway, Miss Hart, kind of going off a soapbox, it was all experiential with her, and that's why I remember her as being one of my best middle school teachers.
I love it. What about you, Eric?
So for me, I'll answer it both ways too. One, I got to work with the best middle school teachers in the world at the Noakesville School when I was a principal there. So I won't single any out, but they were all phenomenal. So very fortunate to have a world-class middle school team of teachers. When I went to school, my favorite was Stanley Staunches. Stanley was a former high school principal and came back into teaching, also language arts. So it's funny that's the theme here. Like you said, Provincia, we would dress up, like we would act stuff out, and very experiential. He made it fun. We connected well, him and I. And when I became a principal, I'm from New Hampshire, and I got to reconnect with him, and as an adult, like talk with him, and like he had one of my papers saved in his attic from when I like in middle school. So
That's cool.
yeah,
Pretty
it's great. But like you said earlier, Ray, if you are in insurance, I'm sure there's some great policies to be written. If you're working at Amazon, I'm sure there's some great shipping to be done. But when you are in education, you change the course of a life. And this is proof right now of just the impact educators had on us and what we're doing. So their echo remains and continues on.
Yeah, I do want to just add one note. If you have any educators, whether they're in leadership or in the classroom, who want to leave the field and they have a reason they can identify, right? For me, for many years, it would be parents. I hate parent emails. They stress me out. I'll lose my hair because I have one sitting in my inbox and I just can't sleep over it. If you know why you want to leave the field, then I really would encourage you to reach out to either anyone here on the screen, because there are steps you can take to make these things more manageable. And, you know, whether it be finding ways to automate your email, which we also have a course in the, Learning Hub with that, or whatever. The point is that if you know what you don't like, you're actually halfway there to finding a solution that keeps you in the field. So anything you can do to identify your problem and then go find a solution, sign us up for helping.
Love
That's
it.
outstanding. Ray, what was that? Do I have another question? Was there two parts?
Nope. That was closest out, pal.
Oh my goodness. I love Lily. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
It's outstanding. Ray, you are a blessing to this profession. And I can't wait to continue to be in contact with you and to keep learning from you. And I'm so honored that you're able to share time and space and to be able to connect with us on this episode of the Community Connection. I think our middle school teachers specifically sometimes get lost in the shuffle a little bit. And I hope this episode resonates with our middle school professionals because I do feel they are the bridge between the elementary area and the high school area. And without that strong support system, I don't think our students could be doing as well as they're doing right now. So hats off to our middle school teachers. Absolutely.
Yep.
Ray, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, and I'm a subscribed listener, so I cannot wait to hear future episodes as well.
Thanks, Ray.